What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your 2-1-Fits Browns Bengals review. I'm sorry this is late. I went to the game Sunday, got home Monday evening, and I was sick yesterday. But we're feeling great today because the Cleveland Browns 24-3 dominated the Battle of Ohio versus the Cincinnati Bengals. And man, what a game. What a game from your Cleveland Browns. We got a lot to talk about here. We're going to try to keep this as quick as possible and not go too long. But let's start off. All three phases of the team, the offense, the defense, and the special teams, were fantastic for me. In my opinion, I thought all three phases played very well. Complimentary football, played absolutely fantastic. So let's start off with the offense here, right? There's some question marks about the offense still after this game. It was a weird weather game, right? It was raining, but it wasn't pouring. It was kind of that misty off and on all game long. Not pretty, not fun to play in, but that's Cleveland, Ohio. So it is what it is. The Browns found a way to do it, get the job done, which is funny because historically it's not really benefited the Browns being in crazy weather games, right? You saw the Saints come to Cleveland last year in the freezing cold and win. They play in a dome down south. Explain that. I don't know. But the Browns found a way to win, right? And it was fantastic. So let's start off here with the offense, and let's start off with the leader of the team. Deshaun Watson was 16 of 29, 55.2 completion percentage, 154 yards, one touchdown, one interception, and he had a rushing touchdown. So before we dive into the offense at all and kind of what I saw and a little bit of takeaways from the offense, a lot of people are upset with Deshaun Watson. They thought he looked terrible Sunday. For me, there was a lot that I liked. And the most important thing for me is noticing Deshaun Watson pre-snap, going through, looking at the defense. You can tell his football IQ is there. It's still there. And going through his progressions, his eyes were always in the right spot. And for me, I want to see you make the throw. I want to see you execute, but mentally understanding the defense, understanding where he needed to go with the football. For me, he was always looking in the right spot. And that's a great sign because, again, being that it was a crazy weather game, I'm not expecting this stat line out of Deshaun Watson every single game. And we'll talk about it in the Steelers preview coming up soon. But I think he's going to look a lot better throwing the football through the air throughout the course of the season as soon as Monday against the Steelers. But in this game, it was more about just finding ways to move the football. And Nick Chubb, 18 carries, 106 yards, not a huge stat line, but man, he made plays out of nothing, right? There were times in that game where I was sitting there and I'm like, man, got to move the ball. And Chubb has unreal vision. He's the player on the Browns that I don't want to ever see leave. I know it's going to happen and it's going to be a heartbreaking day, but man, Nick Chubb is the offense. I love Nick Chubb to death. Makes plays out of nothing, finds ways to move the ball, and he'll just run right through you. Nick Chubb is that dude. He's the best running back in the NFL, in my opinion. I know it's a debate. It is what it is. But I'm just consistently blown away by what Nick Chubb does. Again, not a crazy stat game, but the eye test and the moment and what he did, unreal. Deshaun Watson had 5 carries, 45 yards, and again, a rushing touchdown. And I want to point that out real quick because, again, what Deshaun Watson lacked in the air, in my opinion, he made up with his legs. And in critical moments too. Deshaun Watson at times throughout that game, he didn't panic, but after going through his progressions, moving around in the pocket, understood when he needed to just take off and run. And it was critical yards, must get yards, and he got it. He did it. And that was great to see. And especially when it comes to the command of the offense and understanding what you're seeing across the line of scrimmage, the play where Deshaun took it to the house for the touchdown on the QB draw, he got to the line of scrimmage, audibled out of it, checked out of it, called that play. That was one of the audibles, is that QB draw. And for him to call that, I thought at the time was a very ballsy decision to make just because of where they were at and what was going on. But take it to the house, got the job done. And the thing about Deshaun running the ball is he does not look to get down. He's looking to run through you. He is a gamer. And personally, I like it. A lot of people are going to hate that because obviously there's the injury risk. But man, is he fun to watch. You really forget the athlete that he is sometimes. So again, what he did not get through the air, I thought he made up for with his legs. Jerome Ford had an interesting day. 15 carries, 36 yards. Um, his vision was terrible. He had a couple of nice moments, but it's clear to see the difference between Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb. They are not even the same position, right? It's crazy, and that's more a testament to Nick Chubb than it is Jerome Ford being bad. I don't want to say Jerome Ford is bad because he's not. I thought he had some nice moments, but he also missed some wide open holes that he could have ran through, and got to work on it. We'll see, but if the Browns are going to be successful, you got to be able to get Nick Chubb some rest. And I feel like that's pretty important. So Elijah Moore, he had 2 carries for 19 yards. I thought that you got to see him used all over the place, not as much as I would have liked. But Elijah Moore, also your leading receiver, with 3 receptions, 43 yards, and he looked good. He looked good. Not as much as him as I would have liked to have seen. But I thought he looked good. Amari Cooper, 3 receptions, 37 yards. Njoku, 2 receptions for 24 yards. Got to get him more involved, in my opinion. But let's shift gears here from the offense. Actually, never mind. Jack Conklin is out for the season with the torn ACL, MCL. And that is because Jedrick Wills simply sucks at football. And Jedrick Wills is the least caring, puts in the least amount of effort I have ever seen on a football field. He just gives up. And, Jack Conklin should be pretty upset with Jedrick Wills because, you know, finish the play. Don't give up. Just because you get beat doesn't mean you just stand there. And it was not good. Jedrick Wills, I I'm about through with him. I've kind of been done with him for a while, but that's ridiculous. And now Jack Conklin is out because Jedrick Wills doesn't care about anybody but himself. So that's what I will say on that one. But let's shift gears here. Again, I expect the offense to be drastically better against the Steelers. We'll talk about that at some point here soon. But the defense, unreal. Jim Schwartz masterclass Sunday against the Bengals. Jamar Chase, 5 receptions, 39 yards. T. Higgins, 0 receptions on 8 targets, obviously 0 yards. Tyler Boyd, 2 receptions, 10 yards. And then Joe Mixon, 13 carries, 56 yards. The Cleveland Browns absolutely shut down Joe Burrow, absolutely shut down that wide receiver core. And it was fantastic to see. It was one of the best defensive games I have seen. It was the best defensive game I've seen personally, like in person. But man, what a masterclass. Martin Emerson was targeted 6 times, allowed 1 catch. Greg Newsome allowed 2 receptions for 18 yards. He had a tackle grade of 82.2, 80.2 coverage grade. He played in the slot 41 plays and only 4 outside. So interesting stat there for you. So, Martin Emerson on the outside, Denzel Ward on the outside with Greg Newsome in the slot is what I'm expecting. Everybody played a fantastic game, and Denzel Ward looked elite. All of our corners looked elite, but Denzel Ward completely shut down Jamar Chase. He was targeted 8 times, allowed 4 catches, 2 forced incomplete passes, 26 yards allowed total out of Denzel Ward. He was unreal. unreal. And coming off of concussion, by the way, I was terrified about Denzel Ward and this kind of, I wouldn't say terrified, but I was nervous because he's coming off of an injury. And how are the Browns going to kind of help out there? Like, what if Ward is not fully ready to go? Boy, he was more than ready to go. He played out of his mind. And, the Browns have always been great against the Bengals, but that is not a bad team, right? Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, in my opinion, if not the best, one of the best receiving cores in the NFL. And holding them to just 82 passing yards, right? That's all the Browns gave up defensively. 75 rushing yards, all the Browns gave up defensively. 2.6 yards per play is what Cincy averaged. Held Cincinnati to 2 out of 15 on third down conversions. That is insane. That is unreal. That is historically great defensive numbers for the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett, 6 pressures, 1 sack. He played 77% of the snaps defensively for the Browns. 77. Now, unless you're a fan who just started watching, Myles Garrett is always on the field. And it's hurt us because he's been so winded and he's just been so just worn out because he's expected to do everything. And now he doesn't have to be. Zadarius Smith, 6 pressures. And yeah, he might not have got a sack, but he was involved every single play. He was flying around, and it was great to see. Obo Okoronkwo. This is a guy that we signed expecting to be the number 2 defensive end for the Browns, and boy, did he play like it. He was out of this world, and he had a sack in this game. Just everything the Browns did along that defensive line was spectacular. The way that Jim Schwartz moved Zadarius around, moved Miles around, got Okoronkwo out there, along with Dalvin Tomlinson dominating up front. Shelby Harris looked really, really good. This defensive line is unreal. And what they did against the Bengals is I don't know how you defend it. I don't know how anybody can defend that defensive line because, man, unreal. Unreal. So for the Browns, the secondary was fantastic without Juan Thornhill, by the way. So Rodney McLeod, who is your number 2 free safety, stepped in and played very, very well, in my opinion. Grant Delpit had the best game of his NFL career. The Browns were using him all over the place. He was a rover. He, came up on the blitz. I believe he got a sack, was fantastic in coverage. And that's the interesting part with Grant Delpit. He's not, right? He played at free safety, but he's better as a strong safety. Now, that doesn't mean he can't cover, but he's just better used in multiple roles. And I was wondering how Jim Schwartz was going to use him, and how we saw him being used Sunday is exactly what I wanted to see. Lights out play from Grant Delpit. And once Juan Thornhill comes back, just imagine how much better that secondary is going to be already. And it's already great. The Browns have 3 elite corners. 3 elite corners. Defensive line is amazing. And now they're playing as a unit. Boy, this is going to be fun. So, with that being said, special teams was fantastic. I thought coverage all day defensively, or as far as defending on special teams, it was great. D-Hop, our version of D-Hop was perfect all day. That stadium was lit. Cleveland was rocking Sunday. Cleveland was fantastic. That was the best environment I have ever been in. I've been in some crazy crowds, but even just a reaction to the first kick made by Dustin Hopkins, crazy. It was awesome. So I'm excited. If you can't tell, I'm very excited. What a game. What a game for the Cleveland Browns. 24-3, destroying the Cincinnati Bengals, starting off 1-0. First time the Browns have won 2 back-to-back, or wait, hold on. You know what? Never mind. I don't even remember. I saw the stat, or I heard it somewhere. It's like the first time the Browns have won opening games 2 years in a row since before I was born. So historic, right? This team is awesome. I love it. So, with that being said, I could talk all day long about this game, but I'm not going to because guess what? We play the Pittsburgh Steelers Monday, and that will be the next video that you hopefully see. So, I'm going to talk about that next. But thank you for watching. If you stayed to the end, let me know. Like the video, drop a comment in the comment section. What do you think of the game? You got to be pumped. If you're a Browns fan, you got to be pumped. So, anyway, go Browns. We're going to talk about the Steelers game next. We will see you there.